Hi, welcome to my podcast, Different Thinking for Different Times. I'm your host, Steve Lentini. This is Season 6, Episode 21. So, since my near-death experience on November 18th, 2002, I've been reflecting on why me, right? Why me? How is it that I got a second chance at life? 22 years and 8 months later now, I still reflect on that. Why me? And partly I believe that I hadn't totally learned my lessons for sure, because this is a life school. But I think secondly is to share the message that we've heard in various writings from various spiritual people and prophets, that sin is a myth, right? Jesus said it, what was acceptable in a way that was acceptable at the time. I mean, you think about when he lived, people were into judgment and making others wrong and believing too that there was only one way to God, one religion. And yet there were still multiple types of beliefs. And Christ's message was there was no sin, that this was a life school, that God wasn't tracking where we fell. And that was my experience. So now maybe it matches my thinking, which even as a teenager, wanting to be a priest or believing that I wanted to be a Catholic priest, the thing that bothered me the most was these fire and damnation sermons that priests would give, and talking about this angry, vengeful God that was tracking every mistake we made. Why did we come here if not to make mistakes, to learn and grow? That's the question I want you all to ponder. If you're judging others because you think you're perfect, that in fact is what you have to learn to overcome. None of us are beneath anyone nor superior to anyone. And fascinating, all the things we think make us superior, titles, achievements, possessions, none of them mean anything on the other side, at least in my experience. I only share what I experienced. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. After all, I'm not Jim Jones. Imagine people believed in him so strongly that 400 people drank the Kool-Aid and died. Now, that's certainly a lesson. I don't know if we get to come back and practice until we get it right, and maybe we do. I think it's logical since everything on earth is recycled. I mean, we don't have to worry about cleaning up after a dead animal. In the forest, I'm sure there's many, and nature cleans up. But if you leave it on the road for a while, nature cleans up. The highway crew doesn't really have to. There is a mysterious and miraculous system that operates all around us. In fact, here we are floating on a rock, a garden rock, in the middle of nothing, at the exact right spot for life to occur. Imagine, right? This is us. I have a marble. I've shown it before, right? This is us. This is the earth painted on a marble. And scientists say, physicists say, we're probably even smaller than that in relation to the size of the universe. Imagine, we're probably smaller than that. Likely the size of a grain of sand. So the thing with humans is we have hubris that tells us we know it all, that we're better than others, that others shouldn't make some of the mistakes they make, that others shouldn't do some of the things they do. And all of this is learning. Some don't learn it in this life. I mean, we look at some of the despots that have existed through history, like Hitler or Mussolini or many others, Idi Amin, maybe thousands of leaders. Today you have Putin and some of the other leaders. China has people that are enslaved, and most of the world doesn't want to talk about it, right? And that's what's funny, is that all of this exists for us to learn. And without the contrast, we wouldn't know we were alive, right? There are things here for us, that everything is for us, that life is a gift. Some spiritual masters have thought that people who come here and do evil things have come here by prior agreement to be disliked, to be hated, so that they can teach humanity a lesson. And we do learn slow. We do. Even our leaders today, you think about our political leaders in this country, we've boiled it down to two parties, and both of them get up and make each other wrong, railing against each other, especially the last 10 years, to prove a point so one can gain power over the other, which is why I believe we need probably 5 or 6 political parties, maybe as many as baseball teams, so that we can get over ourselves. Instead of having two sides and the craziness of it, we've lost the art of having a dialogue. And our leaders, it's funny, they model poor behavior, just railing against each other, not willing to have a dialogue, not talking about compromise. And how can we come to a reasonable way to advance on any issue, whether it be immigration or defending the country or protecting our borders or deporting people. I mean, in fact, Clinton and Obama have deported millions of people. Obama was 5 million people, Clinton over 4 million people, and yet there was nothing said. There were no protests. And if you want to find fault, it would be the fault of the last 4 years, the previous administration opening borders. And I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I've been both. My point is we have small-minded acorn brain thinking, and we're not going to advance until individually we begin to demand things from our leaders. Why do we want leaders that continue to kill millions of people over land that, by the way, when that leader, let's say when Putin dies, God forbid, all of his effort will have been in vain. He's gone. He won't even be here to enjoy whatever land he gained. Yes, we're human. We have hubris. We think we're right. We think we know better. That's the place that we have to learn to grow and overcome. The human voice, that little voice in our mind, what I call the acorn brain, it wants us to be right, and it's so strong. It keeps us from having a reasonable dialogue, maybe even apologizing, admitting our mistakes, being open and vulnerable, helping people come to another conclusion by you being open to another conclusion, not just steadfast. I mean, people were crying at the election of a president. Once somebody's elected, who cares? It's out of your control for 4 years. And one party just complains about the other. It doesn't matter who's in office. That's what happened during the previous president's term. It happened on the term before that, the previous president, and it goes on and on and on. When someone gets elected, there are people that all they do is rail against it. You can't control it. It's just about letting go and managing what you can control, which is yourself. The only place that humanity can begin to change is when individuals look at themselves, having an open mind. Don't worry, your brain won't fall out if you have an open mind. And to continue working on yourself and to have a sense of humor about yourself, because I don't know one single human that hasn't had errors in judgment, made mistakes, gotten angry, done things they regret. Get over it. It seemed like a good idea at the time, I bet. Or you just went with an automatic thought that leads to an automatic response. I've written books about it, about how to learn to retrain and reprogram the mind so that when you get caught by the brain, what Gurdjieff called the machine, or Rainer Maria Rilke called the little hooligan, and they would ask, will you let that machine run you? Will you let the little hooligan run you, or will you run it? That's the place where we can grow, where we learn to overcome the automatic thought that leads to an automatic reaction. Because typically, those aren't good. They lead to angry outbursts. They lead to road rage. They lead to bar fights. They lead to wars. I don't expect that I'll be one of the reasons that war ends, or that bar fights end, or people shooting somebody in a fight with a gun, or finally everyone just coming together to have a dialogue and reaching compromise. But that's what all this chaos and contrast and conflict is for us to see the lunacy of it, have a sense of humor over it. It's fascinating, at least to me, because I know it's all for naught unless we learn and grow. Did any of you learn to walk without falling? That's the metaphor for life. Somewhere we're still learning to walk in life. Somewhere someone will fall today, many of us. And the key is to get up, learn the lesson, and keep walking with joy in your heart, knowing that God is in the now. I mean, that was my experience. There was no past or future when I was on the other side. I was one with everything and nothing, one with the infinite, one with God, or the divine, or the goddess, or maybe the quantum field. Whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. As long as you believe in something bigger than yourself and start to work on your little acorn brain, work on that little place where that voice, that insidious little voice, takes over, and you're reacting to things you can't control. If you can't control, you have to let it go. If you can control it, you have to do something about it. I just finished a book called Your Brain is Beautiful, but It's Not Always Your Friend. And I talk about simple strategies, why it's not always a friend, your brain, and simple strategies to change that. And it begins to just notice where you're reacting, where you're angry. I mean, look at the people who wanted to move out of the country when a president was elected. My God, talk about the insanity of that thought. But you can't control, you have to let go. What you can control is, so if it's a conversation to have with someone, if it's a boundary to set, if it's a boss to speak to, or it's an employee to speak to, you speak up. And there's ways that you can learn how to have more effective communication. I also created the GPT called the Acorn Brain Coach GPT. If you go to the acornbraincoach.com, you can ask my Acorn Brain Coach GPT questions. And it's based on all the work I've done, all the talks I've given, the books I've written, the YouTubes, the podcasts. And it's fascinating how it works and gives people advice. You can ask it how to soften a statement when you have to give people difficult feedback, or you want to debate an issue, how to keep both sides okay. Now, you do have to register for a free ChatGPT account, and it's free, but I don't know who is asking questions. I don't get any of that information. I just want to help. I want to help people win. I want to help people learn to reprogram this brain and not listen to that small-minded voice. It's especially effective for leaders. Right? You're leading people. That means you want to model behavior for others to follow. That's important because they're always watching, by the way. Do you notice your kids don't listen to what you say as much as watch what you do? Because when we're out of integrity, a kid will call us out. Our children will call us out. It's the same for our employees. It's the same for our friends. It's the same for our family. It's the same for our leaders who are modeling poor behavior and expecting the general population to act in another way, to act from a higher energy their higher source, their higher level of energy. You can see people who are acting from a lower level of energy when they're just railing against people and making these outrageous claims. Doesn't matter which congressman you listen to or which senator, they both get up and make asses out of themselves, whether it's Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent and I laugh at them all. We're not getting what leadership is, and we're not teaching our younger generations about what to aspire to. Imagine leaders that got up and said, we need to have a dialogue. We need to make things better for our constituents, our voters. We need to listen and then have a dialogue and a compromise. We've got to get over this one side being right and the other being wrong. We can see the effects of it. That's why I'm speaking up about it, right? It's craziness that we won't have a dialogue and making our leaders wrong. We need new leaders. We need more parties. We need leaders that'll have a dialogue and be willing to compromise. And I haven't heard that for a long time. I think Clinton was the best at it. He made changes to welfare. He was deporting people without anyone arguing and crying about it. The borders were relatively secure back then, and people weren't as upset. And he reached compromise to get things done. So that's the thing I want you all to think about, is where are you so steadfast, got your feet so planted, you're almost like a tree that cannot be rerooted. It's up to you. If it sounds small-minded, it didn't come from God, even if it's in the holy books. That's where human thinking, that little insidious voice, took over when prophets were writing about, and the vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Life is not interested in that. Life is interested in our growth. Life is a friend. It's never absent. There was only the now when I was on the other side, no past or future. That's where I realized life is a gift, a friend to me, that life was urging me to change, which I thought were challenges for me to fight. I was fighting life. And as Eckhart Tolle says, when you fight life, life fights you. So I just want to leave you with that thought. If it sounds small-minded, it didn't come from God or the divine or the quantum field or the creator of an infinite universe that we still don't know. Physicists are as far off today as the Incas and the Aztecs were when they were sacrificing babies and princesses. That's for you to think about. If you're interested in any of my books that I've written, go to stevelentiniauthor.com. That's stevelentiniauthor.com. I wrote No BS Coaching last year. Get over the BS stories you tell yourself. Wake up to the BS stories you tell yourself. And then I wrote How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon, because I'm born in the year of the dragon. I wrote In Plain Sight, Learn to See What Most People Miss, and embrace life as it is. It's a friend. It's a gift. And your brain is brilliant, but it's not always a friend. I just got that approved on Amazon last week. I'm going to leave you with this thought too. I'm writing another book if you want to reach out to me. God, the search for God is over. God is in the now. And if you have stories where you've experienced the now as a beautiful moment coming through you, where you realized all of a sudden that life is a friend, a gift that God was walking with you and is, share it with me. I'll be glad to share it in the book. If it sounds small-minded, it didn't come from the creator of a universe. But you just have to change you, because you're the only one you can control. Your journey is none of my business. My journey is none of your business. And that goes for everyone around you. Be in awe of everyone's journey and what they're here to teach us, and how we can learn and grow and learn to appreciate one another, not tolerate. It's all working together for good, as Christ said. Muhammad said, what reaches you was never meant to miss you. What misses you was never meant to reach you. So if this reached you, it was never meant to miss you. Questions? You can email me, steve@theacornbraincoach.com, steve@theacornbraincoach.com, or steve@stevelentini.com, steve@stevelentini.com. I'm grateful. If you want to come on the podcast and challenge me, that's fine too. Remember, I'd love to have you as a guest. Remember, I might ask you, does that sound like small-minded thinking? Thank you.